there, healed listeners. Thank you for joining me today. I'm here with Amy Eversole. Amy and I actually went to school together a long time ago and are from a small town. Amy is a school counselor and a mother of three and owner of Little Daisy. I don't know if Daisy will show her face. That's Daisy. So Amy has agreed to join us because she has an amazing health story. She received a cancer diagnosis and now is cancer free. And we want to share that with you. She wants to share that with the world. And so many people are like calling her and trying to find out what she did to get well. And so I'm excited. Amy, thank you for being here. I'm excited to share your story.
Of course. Glad to be here.
Yes, Daisy's fine. Daisy is just fine. So we're just going to start at the beginning. So your first diagnosis came in 2015.
Yes, that's correct. With a mole that was on my arm that had grew and changed, and I needed to get it checked. And I noticed it, and I put off getting it checked because it was the holidays, and then my house sold, and then it ended up like 4 months.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was the beginning of it, and I had surgery, and that was the end of it.
Okay. And so they said 5 years, and then if you're good still, if you have clean scans or in 5 years, then you're good to go. And so 5.5 years later, you got another diagnosis.
Yes. Okay, and I'm going to back up just a tad. The first time in 2015, they diagnosed me with stage 2B melanoma. And like if they had surgery, they removed it. It was on my arm right here. Lymph nodes came back clean. So that was great. And then in 2020, the fall, I found a lump on my neck, the same side the surgery was on. So I immediately went and had it checked. The dermatologist said, I'm sending you straight to the oncologist. And within 2 weeks or maybe a week and a half, I had CT scan, a biopsy, a PET scan, and a diagnosis of stage 4 melanoma within my lymph nodes. And it was down my breastbone. The lymph nodes and tumors were down my breastbone and in my arm.
Were you feeling sick at this point?
No, I did not feel sick. I was a little tired, but it was fall of 2020. It was COVID. We were all lazy. And I thought, okay, the gyms are closed, school's weird, nothing's open. I thought I was just kind of lazy because of that and still could have been.
Yeah, we were all inside.
I didn't have symptoms other than the lump on my neck.
Yeah.
I did not feel sick.
So your treatment for the lymph node was
started immediately, pretty much. Okay, so all of that was October, November, started treatment immediately. End of November, beginning December, got a terrible rash. It was an immunotherapy, and immunotherapy is not chemo. They say that it's not as harsh side effect as chemo, but let me tell you, it is. There's really not a difference. Actually, for me, they were probably a little worse. Lots of people they worked great for. However, for me, I did have some shrinkage, but the side effects were terrible. The first side effects were terrible rash and burning. And then during that process, I had 2 treatments, and I had COVID at one of those treatments and didn't know I had COVID. And I ended up very sick in the hospital for 3.5 weeks and on the ventilator for 9 days and truly almost died. Like, I'm very, very lucky to be here.
And Amy and I was just talking, really, when she got COVID, that is when like prayer chain started and like, I guess news about your cancer diagnosis and your COVID
all
diagnosis
came out at the same time.
all came out, and everybody like from everywhere was praying for you. So it just caught like wildfire, your story did. And
It
everybody
really-
heard about
It really did. And it was because I think the diagnosis of cancer happened, but it wasn't as well. And not everybody knew it. But when I got COVID, everybody knew it.
Mhm.
And I didn't know what was going on. I'm on the ventilator. I don't know. But it seemed like the whole world was praying for me, which I don't think the whole world was praying for me, but a lot of people were.
it. A whole lot of the world was praying.
Other countries even praying. I mean, it was unbelievable. The messages I got. I mean, even I think the news station contacted my husband. Like it was crazy.
You did a news story.
I did do a news story. Like it got crazy and a lot of that happened when I was in the hospital and didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah, it was highly publicized, and there was a news story about Amy on, was it Channel 10?
Yes,
That's
it was
a
on
news
Channel
story.
10,
Yeah.
WBR.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's talk about that. So you recovered miraculously. You recovered
Yeah.
from the COVID,
Which
and
is still a very big shock to everyone.
yeah, you were really sick. And how old were you at
I
that
was
point?
50. I had just turned 50.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's what, as you know, an outsider, that was one thing that was so disturbing to me. Amy's got 3 kids and cancer and COVID and on a ventilator. And I think that just I know it tugged at my heartstrings.
Yeah.
And I prayed for you
Yeah. Thank
on
you.
the regular because
It was a lot.
it was a lot.
And
It
to
was-
be
it was
50
traumatic.
and people were dying of COVID at that time, but most of them were older and sicker. Now, mind you, I was in amazing shape. I had done 3 half marathons, hiked 500 miles in the Smokies, taught aerobics on occasions. That's, I think, what saved my life is that I was in really good shape. What killed me was cancer, the immunotherapy, and having COVID at the same time. That's what killed my immune system. And my doctor said you had COVID and you had a treatment and it about killed you.
And you also had, coming out of that, although you were recovering, you had horrible colitis from the immunotherapy.
Yes, that came right after I got over COVID. Immediately the colitis started. I thought I was like all healthy and ready for the treatment, but it took a long, and looking back, I should have waited on that treatment, but it took a long time. Honestly, they should have never given me that treatment, even though I wanted it. That was terrible. The colitis was severe, grade 4, the highest grade. I will never, no matter what cancer I have, even the doctors would not give me immunotherapy again because of how sick it made me. He kept saying, Amy, you have 9 lives and you've used 8 of them. You've got to slow down.
So you had to stop immunotherapy and they wanted to do chemotherapy now. And you started those treatments, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
And
And
tell us about it.
okay, so I started the chemo and they were chemo pills. And so, when you have the immunotherapy was through IV, the chemo was chemo pills. Most people do chemo in a port. I was like, I'm not getting a port. I refuse a port. I'm not a cancer patient. I kind of refused all of this. I was like, I don't want to be a cancer patient. I don't want to look like a cancer patient. I don't want my kids to see me have this hole. That's going to be weird. At the time, they were 8th grade, 10th grade, and 21. So I was a lot for them already, and I just didn't want them to look any worse than it was. And I did try to sugarcoat it for them as best that I could.
And I talked to you about how cancer diagnosis, of course, is devastating, but Amy's a pretty tough chick. And so she never was like,
I was like, I'm going to overcome this.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. Let's get the treatments over with. This is going to be behind me. I got this. I'm fine.
it was just something you were going through.
Yeah, this was just a chapter and I'm
Yeah.
going to get through it. I really didn't even have tears, to be honest. I was like more worried about my kids not freaking out. I was like, because they don't need to freak out. I'm going to be fine. And I told them to believe me and to believe. And I really believed I was going to be fine. I did.
And so then was this in January 2020? Well, no, first, you also started, let's start here. You also, although you started chemotherapy, you also started doing your own thing.
Yes.
And so this is where Amy's story takes turn.
Yeah, this is a big deal.
And she had some really good friends that said, we love you too much to watch you suffer.
Mhm.
And here's what you need to do. Tell me about your friends.
Okay, so I have 4 friends that kind of got all together to do this. One, Veronica, her daughter unfortunately died of cancer at the age of 25, and she had Fenbensol at her house. If you all don't know what Fenbensol is, it's a main ingredient for Joe Tippen's protocol. I'm going to explain that in a minute, but it's also the main ingredient to kill worms and little cute little dogs like this, and big horses and cows
And people.
and people. So she was telling me I need to take these pills. I'm like, you're crazy, Veronica. But at the same time, I was like, she lost her daughter. I'm going to take these pills for her. Like, I got to do, I'm going to take them. So there's these little times, and she's a good woman. It's not like I was going to a drug dealer's house, but we would joke about going to the drug dealer's house. But anyway, her husband had bought them for their daughter who had cancer, and she died, and they had all these left. And so, of course, I had to take them. So I took them for a few months, and I went to MD Anderson for a second opinion. I had been going to University of Tennessee, and loved that doctor. Didn't have a problem at MD Anderson. I just didn't really click with them, and everything they said was the same thing Tennessee was saying, except they said, let's do this one biopsy because I'm thinking some of your cancer may be dying. And I was like, okay, great. From a scan, but they're like, we just want to make sure. So they did this biopsy, and I've been on this Fenbensol for about 4 months, along with the chemo pills. Okay. And the chemo pills at that time weren't making me that sick. Sometimes, but not that sick. So I got a no evidence of disease report. It was amazing and exciting and thrilling, and I was done. Okay, I was done. So I quit taking everything. I got released.
You quit the chemo? You
Quit
quit the Fenbensol.
Okay, that was a mistake. I should never quit the Fenbensol, but quit the chemo pills and the Fenbensol. Then in end of December, I had another scan. Got the results in January of 2023. That's this year, and it had traveled everywhere. There were more tumors than there were the first time, and I had places down my spine that were my bones, and on my pelvis bone, and maybe one on my arm. I don't really remember because it was like this long of a list. And I was sitting in service the first day back in school in January, and I'm reading it, and I'm going, this isn't what it's supposed to say. And I'm like interrupting my boss, and we're at an in service, and we have a guest speaker. She's like, what? I'm like, I'm sending this to you. What am I going to do? And she's like, I don't know. She's a principal. And I just kind of fall apart. I was kind of falling apart. More, not tears, more, okay, what do I got to do? I got to go back to the doctor. I got to start all this over again. I got to do this again. I got to do this again. I just beat this, and I was fine, and I didn't even cry over it. And I got to do this again. Then I had some dark days. But I had some more friends that also were friends with Veronica, Lisa and Sharon and Missy. They went around town into Knoxville and got the rest of Joe Tippen's protocol for me. And a vet even provided me with the Fenbensol. The Andersons were out of town, and I had taken all of them. So I didn't have any more of those. I took them until I was out. Then I got more Fenbensol. So, sorry, I did get Daisy. So at that point, they all helped me and came to my house and said, this is what you're going to take. They wrote it down on a piece of paper, and this is how you're going to do it. And we're going to start it right now.
They kind of had an intervention.
Because they were like, you have to do this.
Yeah.
And so I did it, and I said, this tastes awful. And one of them was a longtime friend and said, Amy, I know you shot tequila when you were 20, down it. Because that's what it was. It was like a shot glass of it at first. And then I learned, oh, I can mix it with my orange juice, or I can mix it with my cranberry juice, and I can drink it. So that's when we added the rest of Joe's protocol.
But tell me, before we go on, tell me when you went back to the doctor and it was through your bones, like what was your prognosis at that point?
Right. It was low, like it was bad. And he said, we're going to take these chemo pills. We're going to go back on the chemo pills. And I was like, okay, I did great on it. Okay, I went back on them, and it was terrible. I don't know why it was terrible the second time around, and the doctor doesn't know why. But I was also taking them with Joe Tippen's protocol at the same time together. So my doctor did not know that. Bless his heart. Yeah, I just didn't even tell him.
Side effects from the chemo, the immunotherapy, like colitis.
Okay, the list of side effects from all that were terrible. I got terrible rashes. I got terrible fevers. I got colitis. I have a heart valve that's damaged because of it.
Lost your vision.
I lost my vision. That's what was the end of it. I was like, I'd rather die than be blind, especially if you've seen all your life. I had an autoimmune disorder. I got Bell's palsy. There was like 10 things. I mean, the list, I don't even know if I can.
Everything was going on.
Everything was going wrong with my body, and it wasn't getting any better. So I was like, I'm done. When my vision was going, I was like, I'm done with the conventional drugs.
And what did your doctor say when you said, I'm done?
He honestly said, I don't blame you. You've been through too much. And I said, what do you think about alternative, all natural, holistic healing drugs? And he said, I am not for that, but because I feel like it gets your hopes up and you don't get better. But I don't blame you for stopping my conventional drugs. He did say that.
At this point, though, he didn't blame you for stopping because he
knew.
He only gave you what, 6 months to a year.
He said to me, Amy, by this time it was March because I took him for a couple months and I had been
this year.
This year. He said, Amy, you probably have. Well, my husband said, how long do you have? Does she have? And he said, I don't like to do that, but it's going to travel fast. So maybe a year, 6 to 9 months, maybe a year if you're lucky, because it's in your bones and it's traveling fast. And we can't. He said, you have to be careful. You don't fall on ice. I don't know how brittle your bones are going to get. What's going to happen?
Now I'm laughing because I've not heard this part of the story. Yeah. So be careful.
Yeah.
You put your bucket list together.
Yes, he said, do your bucket list.
You are jumping out of.
I went skydiving. Yes, I've been
be careful.
Because I thought I was dying. I mean, I thought I was dying. I knew, and I was, at this time, I did have some dark days, but I was like, I had missed my son's not eighth grade, senior night. I missed the state tournament. I was in the hospital from the side effects. I watched their state tournament from my phone, which was so hard because I'd never missed a state tournament.
Mamas do not like to miss things.
No, this is senior year.
Yeah.
I missed a lot. I was in the hospital a lot. I was sick a lot. I missed a lot the past 3 years. And I was told my doctor, I'm done missing all this stuff. If I die, I die.
So you put together your bucket list. Daisy
was one of my bucket lists. I wanted a lap dog and I got one.
You planned your funeral.
I've completely planned my funeral. I have 5 speakers that I wanted to speak at my funeral. I went and met with each one of them, told them while they were speaking, I want you to speak on behalf of me for my children was one. One was speaking to my husband, one to my mom, and one for my work. Like I had everybody lined up that was speaking on my life. One cried on me and said, I don't know if I can do this. I was like, okay, but you have to. You help me raise my kids. It was a devastating time, and I don't know how I held it together, but I did. It was a devastating time. But my funeral was planned, and my bucket list was made. And
you were checking things off.
And I was checking list. Tonight I went whale watching. I went to New York and saw that. Well, there's stuff I wanted to do that I felt like every American needed to do. And so I made my bucket list and started on it.
And so
my daughter got engaged. We left that part out. I didn't think I was going to be able to be in her wedding. Yeah. I want to now.
Yeah. What changed? So you stopped the treatments. You stopped your treatment.
But then the Joe Tippins protocol saved my life.
So what is your diagnosis now?
All the cancer in my body's dead. It's all dead. I know that it's in the process and it may be all gone now. It comes out as it dies.
And this is according to a scan from a doctor at the University of Tennessee.
Yeah. All the cancer's dead. And that same doctor told me in March, you might have a year to live. But in June, he said to me, Amy, you have defied all odds. This is wonderful. This is amazing. Whatever it is you're doing, keep doing it. And I think those words meant he knew I was doing alternative.
And that's the Joe Tippins protocol, correct?
Yes, that's the Joe Tippins protocol.
And we will put a link to the Joe Tippins protocol with the podcast. We also will put a link to a natural center for cancer treatment called Hope for Cancer. And, when you had gone back in April, just of this year, your tumors had shrunk by more than 50%. And then in June, no evidence of disease.
No.
Gone, dead.
And he had one option for me left. He said, Amy, I don't have any other options for you except for this clinical trial. But when you do the clinical trial, you'll be very sick and you'll have to be in the hospital for 2 weeks because it's not good for your heart rate. It's like, okay, I the whole time was like, I'm probably doing this clinical trial. And my husband's like, yes, think about it. Think about it. I'm like, okay, I'll go think about it. And that's why I had the one scan done early. I had it done in April. And I thought it was going to mess up the June scan because insurance only covers so many, but it did not, because it was to see if I was still in the same spot where I would be qualified for the clinical trial. The tumors had shrunk by 50% and I was not qualified. And so I knew at that treatment, I got this. But I just kept on, I still did everything on my bucket list. And I still have added more to my bucket list. But I will say this, it sounds kind of morbid, but it's really fun to live like you're dying. Like that is really fun. It's really fun to live like you're dying. It sounds sad, and it is sad, but it's also really fun because it's like I had something exciting going all the time.
Well, you're motivated to make the most of every day.
Yes, I went to concerts. I was like, why have I been not doing this thing?
Yeah. So I guess like wrapping this up, and I want to first say that Amy has been getting calls from all over the place.
Yes. On my Facebook, I have been contacted from Sweden, Australia, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, of course, Tennessee, Florida, a lot of places in the States. But it was really wild to get contacted from Sweden and Australia. That was pretty wild. And I feel like God saved my life so I can help others. And I want to help others. I want people to know about this protocol. I want people to know that there are other options out there other than conventional drugs. And I would never say, don't listen to your doctor or don't do conventional drugs. I'm not going to say that. I'm going to say, get to opinions. Check out holistic, because it's truly what saved my life. The conventional drugs did not help me. The conventional drugs damaged my body to where I have a lot to recover from still. I'm physically healthy, but there are things on the inside that are wrong that were not
damaged. These have been damaged by the
yes. Yeah.
treatments.
My lungs are damaged. My heart, I have a heart valve that's damaged. My skin, I got vitiligo has changed. Everything's changed. Because of the side effects. And it's okay. I could be all depressed about that, but it's okay because I'm still here.
God's got it.
Yeah.
I feel that too.
And it's okay because and I'm just going to keep digging. Okay. What do I need to do for this? What do I need to do for that?
Yeah.
My hair's all come back. I didn't never lose it all, but I had big patches and I had to get a real shortcut. I can't believe how fast it's grown. It's crazy.
Yeah.
In 2 years, it's all grown back.
Yeah. I will say, Amy and I worked together at the same school 1 year.
Yes.
And I have to say, like, you didn't look like yourself. And just like recently, and I mean fast, it's like Amy's back.
Yeah.
You look like yourself. You're acting like yourself.
That's what everybody says.
You're better.
And the color, that's
absolutely.
Most people talk about the color, and I'm still very, very, very pale because melanoma, you're not really supposed to get out in the sun, and so I don't anymore at all. Which I used to be a sun goddess. That's what, all these things. But that's not it. They're like, no, the color is different. It's because I had dark circles under my eyes, where I don't anymore. It's just I'm healthier. I am back. It's unbelievable.
Let's tell people who maybe get a cancer diagnosis, your advice to them is what specific?
You don't have to just get one opinion from an oncologist. Get more than one opinion. Go to an oncologist, of course, but there are other options And I would highly recommend looking for an alternate, that holistic natural doctor, because they can also do things just as well, if not better. In my case, better. And I won't say not to go to a conventional doctor, because I don't want to be the burden of someone not losing their life because they didn't get opinions. I say get both opinions and do what's best for you, or do both. And your conventional doctor may not agree with it, but you need to get opinions from both.
Well, and we talked about this on the phone the other night too. And I hear this a lot in my interviews. In fact, I've interviewed Veronica on here for my podcast. But listen to your gut.
Yes.
Like, if your body is screaming or your mind is screaming in the beginning, listen to your gut.
Yes.
That's God gave us that internal voice.
Yes, for a reason.
So we can listen to it.
And God made our bodies to heal itself.
Yeah.
So why did I need all these drugs to heal it? I get that cancer is bad, but I would highly recommend both get opinions from both.
Two opinions. And I love that.
Or three.
Yeah. Yeah.
I ended up with 3 opinions: MD Anderson, UT, and holistic.
Yeah.
And holistic is what saved my life.
Yeah. Well, Amy, thank you for sharing your story so much. I just know it's going to help so many people, because literally when she was in the hospital with COVID, it just so many people found out about Amy's story. And so I know that that happened in order for people to hear this story, this part of your story. So thank you for sharing it. I'm excited to see where else you get to share your story. You'll have to keep me posted. And we will put links to Hope for Cancer, Joe Tippins, and
a holistic doctor, maybe,
and some holistic doctors. Yes, I will put a list on there in case you aren't sure. You can't just turn to and get a holistic doctor. Like, you want to get somebody reputable,
right? Yeah,
a real doctor. So anyway, thank you for sharing your story, and I just love it. I love you. I love that you listened to what the Lord said, like you listened to your gut and did what was best for you.
And I will say God healed me through this protocol. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes, thank you, Jesus. He is good. Yes, he is good. All right. Thank you for listening, everybody, and we will see you next time.